There are girls in Lagos who are born, and there are girls in Lagos who are announced. Eliora Adeyemi was announced. Her father is Chief Bankole Adeyemi, oil and shipping and 3 banks, the kind of man whose name is on buildings he has never walked into. Her mother sits on boards and hosts fundraisers where the smallest check in the room is worth more than most people earn in a year. When Eliora was born, the hospital wing was emptied for it. When she turned 16, her father shut down an entire island resort for one night because his daughter liked the water. She grew up with drivers and cooks and a wing of the house to herself. Private school in Lagos, university in England, a wardrobe that had its own room. She had never queued for anything in her life. She had never carried her own bag. She had also never once been asked what she wanted. Her parents were in Dubai for her 9th birthday. They were in London for her prize giving, and in Johannesburg for her graduation. And the woman who clapped for her at every single one of those things was Mama Ngozi, the housekeeper, 63 years old, who had raised her from a baby and had never missed one day of her life. So when Chief Adeyemi shook hands with his oldest friend over dinner and decided that his daughter would marry that man's son, nobody thought to ask her either. They simply booked the hall, printed 400 invitations, and told her what color to wear. And on the night of her engagement party, in a white lace dress that cost more than a car, standing under chandeliers in front of everybody who mattered in Lagos, Eliora Adeyemi was smiling when her hand started shaking. 400 people watched Michael Adekunle slide the ring onto her finger, and the whole ballroom broke into applause so loud that the chandeliers seemed to move with it. Cameras flashed. Somebody screamed her name from the back. Her mother was crying beautifully, the way she did everything, and her father had one hand raised like a man accepting an award. The ring was heavy. That was the thing nobody warned you about. It was so heavy. Smile properly, Michael said through his teeth, still waving at the room. Your face is doing that thing. What thing? The thing where you look like somebody is holding a gun to your back. She smiled properly. Her father took the microphone, and the hall went quiet for him the way rooms had gone quiet for Chief Adeyemi her entire life. 2 families, he said. 1 name. 30 years of friendship. And tonight we make it permanent. More applause. Somewhere near the front, one of her aunties shouted hallelujah. Eliora stood beside a man she had met 11 times and looked out at 400 faces, and every single one of them was happy for her. She had been practicing that smile since she was 9 years old. She had practiced it at boarding school when her parents missed the prize giving because of a merger in Dubai. She had practiced it at her graduation when the seat beside Mama Ngozi stayed empty. She had practiced it so long and so well that nobody in that room, not one person out of 400, could tell that the bride-to-be had already stopped breathing. At 10:15, she went looking for Michael because her mother wanted a photograph of the 2 of them at the cake. She found him on the terrace with his back to the door and his phone against his ear, laughing low with a glass in his other hand. Please, do not do that, he was saying. Do not do that to me tonight. You know I would rather be there than here. Eliora stopped with a drink in each hand. She is a photograph, not a wife, Michael said. She is decoration. 2 hours, 3 at the most, and I am with you. Wear the black one. He laughed at something. He hung up. He turned around. There she stood in white lace with 2 glasses in her hands and her whole face still. How long have you been standing there? He said. Long enough. To his credit, or something worse than credit, he did not even flinch. He set down his phone, took one of the glasses out of her hand, and drank half of it in one swallow. Then you know how this works already, he said. My father made a deal. Your father made a deal. Nobody asked me, and nobody asked you, and nobody is ever going to. You are engaged to me. Tonight, in front of my grandmother. I am engaged to your surname. He shrugged. Look, I like you. Genuinely. You are quiet. You are beautiful. You will look correct at functions. Give me 2 sons and go and live in the Ikoyi house, and I will never trouble you. That is a good arrangement, Eliora. Most women would take that with both hands. And her Her and the one before her, and whoever comes after her. He finished the drink. Are you going to cry about it? Because your mother is looking for us, and I do not want to explain your face. Eliora looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled properly and said, Let us go and cut the cake. He was so relieved he did not even notice that she had not touched her own glass. They cut the cake at 11 p.m. She fed him a piece, and the room screamed. Her mother pulled her aside afterwards, gripping her arm, eyes shining. You see how everybody is looking at you? You see, this is what I prayed for. Yes, Mummy. He will settle. All of them settle. Yes, Mummy. By 1 a.m. the band was still playing. By 2 a.m. she was upstairs in her bedroom with the door locked, still in her dress, sitting on the floor of her walk-in wardrobe with her back against the shelves, doing arithmetic. 11 times. She had met him 11 times. Her passport was in the second drawer. If you are already in this story, do me a favor before it goes any further. Subscribe, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments what you would have done if you were Eliora, because what happens to this girl in Seoul is going to have you shouting at your screen. Mama Ngozi found her at 2:30 with 2 suitcases open on the bed. The old woman stood in the doorway in her night wrapper and did not say a single word for the longest 10 seconds of Eliora's life. 63 years old. The woman who had plaited her hair for school. The woman who had sat up with her through malaria while her parents were in London. The woman who had taught her to pray, to cook, to keep her chin level when people were unkind. Where? Mama Ngozi said. Away. Away where? If I tell you, they will get it out of you. Eliora's hands did not stop moving. Jeans, 2 shirts, nothing with a label. And I need you to be able to look my mother in her face and say you do not know. Mama, Ngozi came into the room and shut the door behind her. Sit down. Mama, I do not have time to. Sit down. Eliora sat on the edge of the bed. The old woman knelt in front of her, took both her hands and held them. Tell me what he did. So Eliora told her. The phone call, the terrace, the arrangement, 2 sons and the Koi house and never trouble you. And her voice held steady for all of it, right up until the last sentence, which was, and when I told him I heard everything, he asked me if I was going to cry about it. Mama Ngozi closed her eyes. Then she stood up, walked to the wardrobe, and started folding a wrapper into the suitcase with hands that would not stop shaking. Mama, be quiet and pack. The old woman's voice had gone rough. Once you pass the gate, you cannot come back through it. You understand what I am telling you? Not for Christmas. Not when you are sick. Not when your father is old. Once you go, you have gone. I know. No cards. No jewelry. They will find you through every single one. She held up a hand before Eliora could argue. Your father tracked a driver who stole a generator across 3 states in 6 days. 6 days. You think he will not turn Lagos upside down for his only daughter? Eliora reached up and unclasped the necklace her father had given her on her 18th birthday. She slid the engagement ring off her finger, and it came off much easier than it had gone on. She set the 2 of them side by side on the dresser where somebody would find them in the morning and understand exactly what they meant. Tell them I was tired, she said. Tell them anything. I will tell them nothing, Mama Ngozi said. I am too old to be a good liar. I will tell them I woke up and the girl was gone, and I will let them think what they like. She pressed something into Eliora's palm and folded her fingers over it. A roll of cash, held with a rubber band, soft from years of handling. Mama, no. Do not argue with an old woman at 3 a.m. This is your money. This is all of your. It is my money, and I am giving it to my child. Mama, Ngozi took her face in both hands. Listen to me. You are going to be hungry. You are going to be cold. You are going to sit somewhere by yourself in a country where nobody knows your name, and you're going to think, I should have just married him. And on that day, I want you to remember that I gave you everything I had so that you would never have to. Eliora broke then. She put her head on the old woman's shoulder in the middle of that bedroom with the party still playing downstairs, and she wept until she could not see. "Come and get me one day," Mama Ngozi whispered into her hair. "When you have your feet under you, come and get me. I swear to God." "Then go. Go now, before I am selfish and keep you." At 3:40 a.m. Eliora Adeyemi walked out through the service gate of her father's estate with one suitcase and a pair of jeans, with an old woman's savings in her pocket. The music was still going. Somebody was still dancing to it. She did not look back. 14 months later, she was ironing a hotel uniform on a towel spread on the floor of a one-room apartment in Goyang because the flat was too small for a board. "You are pressing that thing like it is a wedding dress," Amara said from the mattress. "It is the only thing I own with my name on it." "Your fake name." "Same thing now." Amara Obi had taken her in with no questions asked. That was the whole story of how they met. One Nigerian girl in a city of 10 million strangers, hearing another one struggling with a bus card and simply deciding to solve it. Eliora had arrived in Seoul with a suitcase and a roll of cash and no plan beyond distance. She had spent the first 3 weeks in a guest house room with 4 bunk beds in it, eating 1 meal a day, calculating how many more days she could stay a person before she became a problem. The girl who had grown up with drivers and cooks and a whole wing of a house to herself had learned to make 1 packet of noodles last 2 sittings. Amara had gotten her the interview at Hotel Siren. Attendant, the lowest rung on a very tall ladder. Now she carried towels for people who never once learned her face, and she went home at midnight with her back aching, and it was hers, all of it, earned in hers, and some nights that was almost enough. In the drawer beside the mattress there was a folded immigration form, half completed. Sponsorship required. She had been looking at that form for 11 months. Still nobody to sign it? Amara asked. Attendants do not get sponsors. Eliora held the uniform up to the light. Attendants get replaced. That evening Kwan Sangpil lined the staff up in the service corridor and walked the row like a general inspecting an army he was ashamed of. He stopped in front of Eliora and pushed a stack of towels into her arms so hard she rocked back on her heels. Sky Suite, 40th floor. Yes, sir. You knock 3 times. You bow. You do not look at his face. You do not speak unless he speaks to you first. And if he speaks to you first, you answer in 5 words or less. He leaned in. Do you know who is in that room tonight? No, sir. Good. Keep it that way. Kwan smiled without any part of his face agreeing with it. That man does not fire people. Do you understand? He does not need to. He does not lift a finger. He only has to be mildly irritated, and then a telephone rings in an office somewhere, and then it turns out that you have never worked in the city, and you never will again, and nobody can even tell you why. Are you hearing me? Yes, sir. 3 knocks. Nothing else. She rode the service lift to the 40th floor with her arms full and her stomach in a fist. At the door, she raised her hand and knocked. Once, twice, 3 times. Come. The suite was bigger than the entire building she lived in. One wall was glass from floor to ceiling, and beyond its soul was burning gold in the dark, all the way out to the mountains. A decanter on the low table was down by half. Han Taejun sat on the arm of the sofa with his jacket thrown across a chair and his tie hanging loose, fighting the clasp of his watch and losing. She bowed low. Good evening, sir. Your towels. He did not lift his head. She set them down on the console and turned for the door, and behind her the watch hit the floor with a small, expensive sound. He looked up. He saw her from behind, the line of her neck above that cheap collar, the shape of her, and something crossed his face that had not crossed it in a very long time. Turn around. She stopped walking. She did not turn. Everybody in this building is afraid of me, he said. You as well. No, sir. Then turn around. She turned. He looked at her for 3 full seconds. Whatever he felt, he locked it away behind his eyes before it could get anywhere near his mouth. Name? Zara, sir. The lie came out smooth. It had been coming out smooth for 14 months. Zara. He turned the name over like he was checking it for weight. What is a woman who looks like you doing carrying towels in my hotel? It is honest work, sir. That is not an answer. That is a door closing. Then it is my answer, sir. For the first time in weeks, Han Tae-jun almost smiled. He got up and started fighting his shirt sleeve and lost that too. Help me. That is not in my job description, sir. Name a figure. No, sir. Everybody has a figure. Then I am nobody, sir. He stopped. He sat down heavily on the edge of the bed and put his face into both hands. And when he spoke again, it was not the voice of the man who owned the building. 9 years, he said. I was with her for 9 years. She was with my cousin for 6 of them. Eliora stood very still by the door. Do you know how I found out? On a Tuesday, in a board meeting. Somebody left a photograph face down on my chair so that 12 men could sit and watch my face while I turned it over. He laughed, and it was an ugly sound. They did not even look away. Not one of them. They watched me the way you watch a building come down. Sir, I have 400 and some people in this hotel and 11,000 in the group, and there is not one single human being I can say that sentence to. He lifted his head and looked at her. So I am not asking you as a guest, Zara. I am asking you as a man who does not want to be alone in this room tonight. She looked at the door. She looked at him. And she thought about being 9 years old at a dinner table full of people who did not know her name either. Sit up straight, sir, she said. She got him out of the shirt. She hung it up because she was that kind of person, and it was 11 p.m. and nobody was watching. She ran the water and then waited by the window with her hands folded while he showered, and the city slid past below her, gold and cold and enormous. When he came out in a robe, he was steadier and quieter. She turned down the bed. He lay back. She straightened the blanket over him the way Mama Ngozi used to straighten hers, and she turned to go. His hand caught her wrist. Not hard. A question, not an instruction. Stay. 10 minutes. Talk to me about anything that is not money. So she sat down on the edge of the bed. They talked for an hour. Her mother's garden, and the one flower her mother had ever planted with her own hands. His grandmother's rice cakes, and the way the old woman used to hide them in his school bag. The first time either of them had slept in a bed without somebody watching the door of it. 2 people at the top of the world, both starving for exactly the same thing, and neither one of them able to say the word out loud. At some point he reached up and touched her jaw and kissed her. She pulled back. He waited. He did not chase her. He simply lay there and let her decide, which was the single most dangerous thing he could have done. And Eliora Adeyemi, who had crossed 4,000 miles so that no man would ever decide anything for her again, looked at this locked country of a man and made the first foolish choice of her whole disciplined life. She kissed him back. Down in the lobby, Kwon Sangpil was slapping his hand on the front desk. Where is the Nigerian girl? She went up with towels 2 hours ago. Morning came gray through the glass. Eliora was still asleep with one arm thrown across the pillow. Han Tae-jun stood at the mirror fully dressed, knotting his tie, watching her reflection for far longer than a man in a hurry has any business doing. He had slept. That was the thing that frightened him. 9 weeks of 3 hours a night, and then a stranger sat on his bed and talked about a garden, and he had slept like a child. He took out his checkbook. He signed his name. He left the amount blank. He set it on the table and weighted it with the watch case. Behind him, she stirred and sat up holding the sheet against her chest. There is a check on the table, he said, not turning around. Write whatever number does not embarrass you. Her whole face changed. What? One condition. Last night does not exist. Not to a friend, not to a journalist, not to your own diary. He shrugged his jacket on. If it exists, I will find you, and I will not be pleasant about it. Do you think that I am? I know exactly what you are. He said it without any heat at all, which was worse. I have met 400 of you, women who see a bad night and a soft man and start measuring the ring finger. Look at me. He was already at the door. Look at me when you say that to me. The door closed. She sat alone in a suite the size of her entire street, holding a bedsheet, shaking so hard that her jaw hurt. She had washed him. She had put him to bed. She had sat up an hour with him, because he asked her to, because he had the loneliest face she had ever seen on a human being. And in the morning he had put a price on her and walked out of the room without turning his head. And it got worse. At 9 a.m., she stood in Kwan Sangpo's office with a white envelope on the desk between them. 2 hours, Kwan said. In that suite. I did my job. Which job? He smiled. Go on. Say it out loud. There is a word for the job, and there is a word for the woman. Eliora put both hands on the back of the chair in front of her. Say it, she said, and I will make you say it a second time in front of a labor office. Kwan laughed and pushed the envelope forward with one finger. Termination. Effective this morning. Do not use us as a reference. Do not walk through those doors again. And do not go crying to anybody, because there is nobody in this country who is going to take your word over mine. She picked up the envelope. At the door, she stopped and turned around. Sir, last night you spent your whole speech warning me about a man who does not have to lift a finger to destroy somebody. And you were describing yourself, she said. He at least paid for the room. She cried on the floor of the apartment that night with her back against the mattress until her eyes swelled shut. Amara came through the door at 9 p.m., dropped her bag, and was on the ground beside her in one motion. Talk to me. I lost the job. What? Why? And it came out of her in pieces, all of it, the towels and the watch and the photograph on the chair and the 9 years and the garden and the check and the 400 of you. Amara sat back on her heels. Her voice went very quiet, which was how Eliora knew. What is his name? I do not remember. Eliora. What is his name? I do not want to remember it. She dragged her wrist across her face. I gave that man a name that was not mine. He gave me money that was not respect. Let it be even. Let it be finished. It is not even. He is sleeping in a bed the size of this room tonight, and you have no job. Then that is Seoul. That is not new information. Amara pulled her in and held her while she cried the rest of it out. Eliora's bag tipped over on the tiles beside them, and a folded check slid halfway out onto the floor. Neither one of them touched it. Across the river, in a glass tower, Han Tae-jun was not functioning. He sat at the head of a table while 12 executives presented numbers he did not hear. Outside in the corridor, a woman crossed the glass. Dark skin, hotel uniform, wrong height, wrong walk, wrong everything. He was on his feet before he knew it. The entire room stood up with him. Chairman. Sit down. He did not take his eyes off the corridor. All of you, sit. Nobody breathed. He stared at a glass wall where she was not, and then he sat back down and said, Continue. And not one man in that room dared to ask. He saw her in lifts. He saw her in traffic. He stopped a car on Tehran Boulevard and made his driver reverse 50 meters for a woman who turned out to be a tourist from Ghana. After 9 days, Baek Doyen laid a slim folder on his desk with the face of a man delivering bad weather. The check has never been presented, Chairman. 9 days. No bank, no broker, no attempt to negotiate it. That is not possible. It is unusual. It is not unusual, Doyen, it is impossible. Han Tae-jun stood up and walked to the window. In my entire life, I have never met one human being who left a blank check on a table and walked away from it. Not one. My own family would have cashed it before the door closed. 10 million lights out there. One woman somewhere inside them. Find her. Find who, Chairman? Baek Doyen said carefully. We have a first name that does not exist and a face. Then find the face. He went back to the hotel himself, which he had not done in 4 years. The revolving door turned and the temperature of the lobby dropped 10 degrees. Kwan came running, bowing before he had finished walking. Chairman, what an honor, sir, If we had known you were coming, we would have. There was an attendant. 9 days ago. Sky Suite. Kwan's face performed several expressions in a very short space of time. Terminated, sir. Immediately. The moment we understood the situation, we removed her. She was unprofessional. She was removed. Yes, sir. On what grounds? Conduct, sir. The smile flickered. She was seen leaving your suite in the morning, and I could not allow that kind of... He stopped talking. The lobby had gone extremely quiet. Finish the sentence, Han Tae-jun said. Sir, I only meant to protect the reputation of the hotel. Her file. Now. Kwan fumbled a printout across the desk. Han Tae-jun read it and handed it to Baek Doyen without a word. The home address is a convenience store, Chairman, Baek Doyen said. The telephone number is 9 digits. The name matches nothing in immigration. Han Tae-jun set the paper down very gently, which was somehow far worse than if he had thrown it. You destroyed a woman's livelihood over a rumor, he said, and you did not even take her real name while you were doing it. Chairman, please, if I had known that you... That is what makes it worse. You did not do it because of me. You did it because she could not stop you. He straightened his cuff. I am not going to do anything to you. That is the part you will find difficult. You will come to work every morning, and you will wonder. He walked out. Kwan held on to the desk to stay standing. Meanwhile, Eliora was sending applications until her eyes burned. How many today? Amara asked, setting a plate of rice down beside the laptop. 19. And yesterday? 22. Eliora rubbed her eyes with the heels of both hands. Amara, how much do you have saved? Enough to be insulted by that question. I need $11,000. Her voice cracked on the number. For her flight and her papers and a place for her to stay. Mom Ngozi is 63 years old. She has nobody. She lied to my entire family so that I could run. And she is still lying, and she is still in that house, and every month I do not send for her is a month she spends waiting. So, Amara sat down on the floor in front of her. We get you a job with a sponsor, and then we get that woman a seat by the window. The laptop chimed. Eliora read it once. She read it twice. Then she turned the screen around. Amara's hand went to her mouth. Hansio Group. Eliora. Hansio. That is not a company, that is a country with a logo. Executive assistant. Sponsorship available for the right candidate. Then you're going to walk in there, Amara said, and you are going to be so good that they forget to look at your passport. At 5 a.m., she stood in front of a cracked bathroom mirror in a borrowed navy blazer, practicing. Good morning. My name is Eliora Adeyemi. Thank you for the opportunity. She fixed the collar. Tried it again, steadier. My name is Eliora Adeyemi. Amara appeared in the doorway, holding a pair of shoes, one size too big. Stuffed tissue in the toes. Walk slowly. Look expensive. The lobby of Hansio Group had ceilings like a cathedral. 20 candidates sat on a long bench, all in black, all Korean. All of them watching the Nigerian girl walk in with a brown folder held against her chest like armor. She sat at the end. She straightened her back. She thought about $11,000 and an old woman waiting in a compound in Lagos. Adeyemi, room 40. She walked in smiling. 6 panel members at a long table. She bowed. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Then she lifted her head and looked at the chair in the center. 9 days of a woman who had vanished into thin air, and there she stood, in his building, in a cheap blazer, saying thank you for the opportunity. Neither of them moved. The panel looked at him, looked at her, looked back at him. Chairman, shall we begin? No, Eliora said. No. She turned and walked, and then she ran, and the folder went everywhere across the marble. 206 applications worth of paper skidding across a floor that cost more than her father's car. Han Tae-jun was out of that chair and around the table before it landed. By the time he reached the lobby, She was already through the revolving glass and swallowed whole by the street. He stood at the window, breathing hard, watching a navy blazer disappear into 10 million people. Beck Doyen arrived beside him. Her name is on that application. Yes, Chairman. Everything. Where she sleeps. Where she eats. Who she owes money to. Today. Chairman, may I say one thing? No. She was still in the blazer at midnight, shoes on, sitting on the mattress staring at the wall. Talk, Amara said. It was him. Lyra laughed, and there was nothing good anywhere in it, sitting in the middle chair like a king. He owns it, Amara. All of it. The hotel. The tower. Probably the bus I took to get there. Then he has seen your real name on that paper. Lyra closed her eyes. Call him out, Amara said. Publicly. Go to a journalist. Make it his problem before he makes it yours. And say what exactly? That I am hiding in Seoul from a family that owns half of Ikoyi? The second my name is in one newspaper, Michael is on a plane. One phone call. One. She pulled the blazer tighter around herself. I gave away everything I had so that no man could ever tell me what to do again. And now a man with a checkbook knows the street I sleep on. For 1,000 miles away, Michael Adekunle sat with his feet on a desk and a grainy photograph in his hand. A woman in a hotel uniform, walking through a Seoul crosswalk with her head down. 14 months, he said into the phone. 14. And your people are certain. 90%, sir. Do you know what she made me? He smoothed the photograph flat with his palm. A joke. For 100 guests watched me put a ring on a woman who had already packed her bags. My mother still cannot say her name in that house. He picked up his pen. Book me on the Thursday flight, and do not tell her parents anything. He smiled at the photograph. I want to be the one who brings her home. 2 days later, somebody knocked on Amara's door. She opened it on 2 enormous men in black suits. One of them was holding a lacquered box with both hands. Miss Adeyemi. An invitation from Chairman Han Tae-jun. Dinner. His residence. Saturday, 7 p.m. A car will come for you at 6 p.m. Lyra opened the box. Cream cardstock. Gold ink. And underneath the card a set of keys. What are these? A vehicle, madam, so that you may arrive comfortably. She closed the box. She handed it back. She shut the door. Amara stared at the door, then at Lyra. Then the two of them started laughing, the exhausted kind that sits 1 degree away from crying. He sent a car, Amara wheezed, and a car. To his house, alone. To do what, Amara? Discuss my resume. On Saturday at 6 p.m., a black sedan idled outside the building, and a driver stood beside it holding an umbrella he did not need. 20 minutes went by. 30. Lyra watched from the window with the curtain twisted in her fist, and she did not go down. In a dining hall built for 18, a table was set for 2. The candles were lit. Han Tae-jun sat at the head of it with his tie off, waiting, and had been waiting for an hour. Beck Doyen came in and bowed very low. She sends her regrets, Chairman. Her exact words were, "Tell him I am not interested in meeting him." The silence went on for a long time. Han Tae-jun set his glass down with enormous care. Not interested. Yes, Chairman. Government ministers wait 4 months for this table. Yes, Chairman. An attendant with a false name and 9 digits in her telephone number is not interested. He stood up so fast that the chair went over behind him. He drank on a rooftop that night while his oldest friend watched him do it. So a woman said no to you, Jung Hyun-woo said, and the world has ended. She slept with a stranger on the same night that she met him. You understand what kind of woman that makes her. Say that again, slower, and listen to yourself while you are doing it. Tae-jun said nothing, because from where I am sitting, Hyun-woo said, there were 2 strangers in that room. 2, and only one of them left money on the table and called it a contract. She has not cashed it. I know. It is eating you alive. And it should, because it means that every single thing you decided about that woman while you were tying your tie was wrong, and you have known it for 9 weeks. Tae-jun turned the glass slowly in his fingers. Try something, Hyunwoo said. Approach her like a woman with a life of her own instead of an asset you misplaced. Apologize, out loud, with your mouth. It will not kill you, although I accept that it may feel like it. I do not apologize. Then keep not sleeping. It suits you. Back in his office at 2 a.m., there were surveillance photographs spread across the desk. Eliora at a bus stop. Eliora carrying groceries up a hill. Eliora laughing outside a shop with Amara. Head thrown back, whole face open. He did not look at the ones with the addresses on them. He looked at the one where she was laughing, and he looked at it for a very long time. She will not answer a call, Baek Doyen said. She will not open the door, and she will not take a car. But she will meet a stranger, Chairman. She is answering employment advertisements. 11 this week. Explain. We engage a woman, a recruiter. She offers an interview in a public place. Miss Adeyemi accepts, believing it to be work. Han Tae-jun kept looking at the photograph of her laughing. Public, he said. Somewhere with people in it. She will feel safer with people around her. Of course, Chairman. Do it. 2 days later, Eliora was on the phone with a notebook open, writing so fast that her hand cramped, her face doing something it had not done in 9 weeks. Yes, madam. Yes. Saturday, 1 p.m. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. She hung up and grabbed Amara by both arms. Executive placement. She said the client sponsors visas. Amara. She said that my English and my Yoruba and my Korean together make me rare. She used that word. Rare. What did I tell you? An expensive restaurant in Gangnam, which means she is serious, which means the client is serious. Amara spun her once around that tiny room, and for 11 seconds everything was going to be all right. At 12:52 p.m. on Saturday, Eliora checked her reflection in the window of a parked car outside a restaurant made of glass and brass. Blazer pressed at 5 a.m., shoes stuffed with tissue, brown folder held against her chest, $11,000 and an old woman and a form in a drawer, all of it sitting right there behind her ribs. She breathed out and went in. The dining room was full. Soft noise, wine glasses, the smell of money. She scanned the tables for a woman in her 50s and found nothing. She checked the notebook. She checked her phone. She dialed the number and let it ring out. A man in black appeared at her shoulder and gestured across the room. She followed the gesture. At the far table, alone in a charcoal suit with no tie, Han Tae-jun was watching her. She turned for the door so fast that she nearly went over on the borrowed shoes. 2 more men in black had closed across the entrance. Hands folded, feet planted. You will not be leaving the premises until you have had a word with my employer, madam. He does not bite. A meeting only. She looked left. She looked right. There was a shoulder in front of every exit in that building, and she was standing in the middle of the floor in a blazer she had ironed at 5 a.m. for a job that she was starting to understand did not exist. Across the room, Han Tae-jun was already on his feet. He crossed the dining room. Diners lowered their forks. He stopped in front of the 3 men at the entrance and turned his shoulder so that his back was to her. And when he spoke too low for her to catch a single word of it. Who told you to stand there? Standard containment, sir. Look at her. Look at her hands. The man looked. She was holding that folder against her chest with both arms, the way a person holds something when there is nowhere left in the world to put it down. She came here for a job, Han Tae-jun said. She thinks she is about to be interviewed for a job, and the 3 of you have made her feel like cargo in front of 90 people. Step away from that door. If any one of you ever stands between a woman and an exit again, you will not be told a second time. Now go and wait outside where she cannot see you. They bowed and went. Baek Doyen opened his mouth. Outside. By the time Han Tae-jun turned around, his face had reorganized itself into something calm and unreadable. Behind her the doorway stood wide open and empty, and he gestured at it lightly, as though it had never been anything else. "It is open," he said. "It should never have been closed. If you walk out of it, I will not follow you, and nobody will contact you again." Eliora looked at the empty doorway, then at him. "But I would like 15 minutes, he said, "and you have already lost your Saturday." She stood there for a long moment. Then she walked to the table, pulled her own chair out before he could reach it, and sat down. She put the brown folder on the linen between them like evidence. "There is no recruiter." "No. There is no job. There is no job. I ironed this blazer at 5 a.m. He had no answer for that. It was the first time in the whole story that Han Tae-jun had none. "How have you been?" he said. She said nothing. "You have not eaten today. Order something. Be angry with a full stomach." Nothing. "You did not cash the check." Silence. He leaned forward. 9 weeks, Miss Adeyemi. Every morning of my life, somebody tells me that it has not moved. Do you understand what that has done to me? I know precisely what every person around me wants and precisely what it costs. My own cousin had a number. My fiancé of 9 years had a number. Then a woman leaves a blank check on a table and disappears, and suddenly I do not know anything at all. "So this is not about me," Eliora said. "This is about your accounting. Let me finish. I have a proposal." He slid a folded document across the tablecloth. "Whatever figure you would have written on that check doubled. A company in your name, funded and staffed, yours outright. An apartment anywhere you like. Cars if you want them." He paused. "Sponsorship. Permanent residency. My lawyers, no queue, no waiting." She went very still at that word. Sponsorship. $11,000. A 63-year-old woman sitting in a compound in Lagos waiting for a phone call. Everything she had bled 14 months for, folded up on a piece of paper on a white tablecloth. And in return, he said more quietly, 1 week. "Paris. You and I. No telephones, no board, no city that knows my face." He looked down at his own hands. "I have not slept properly since that night. I see you in corridors. I have stopped cars in traffic for women who are not you. I am asking for that week because I cannot get you out of my body, and I am trying to buy the only thing I have never once been able to buy." The pause went on and on and on. "Say the rest of it," Eliora said. "There is no rest of it." "There is." Her voice was shaking now, and she did not care who heard it. "You have just spent 4 sentences on money and 1 sentence on Paris, and not one single word on what you called me in that room." "What did I call you?" "Gold digger." He did not speak. "I carried a stranger to a shower," she said, "because he sat on a bed and cried in front of me about his cousin. I put him to sleep. I sat up with him for an hour because he asked me to, and because he had the loneliest face I have ever seen on a human being. And I know exactly what that face looks like, sir, because I have been wearing it since I was 9 years old." She opened her handbag. "And in the morning you looked at me, and you priced me." She took out the check. Blank. Signed. Soft and creased from 9 weeks of being carried in a bag. She held it up so that he could see his own signature. "I lost my job that morning. Your manager called me a whore in his office and then wrote the word conduct on a piece of paper so that it would follow me into every interview in this city. I have applied to 206 positions. I need $11,000 for a 63-year-old woman who lied to my entire family so that I could be free, and she is still waiting for me, and I have carried this in my bag every single day since." "Then use it," he said. "That is exactly what it is for." "No, sir." She looked him dead in the eyes. "That is exactly what it is for." She tore the check in half. She set the 2 halves down on the tablecloth in front of him and squared the edges neatly, the way she had been trained to set down towels. "Now offer me Paris again." "Eliora." She stood up. He stood with her. She took 1 step forward and slapped him across the face. The sound cracked through the entire dining room. Every fork stopped. Every conversation died in the middle of a sentence. A waiter froze with a bottle half poured. Heads turned from every table, from the bar, from the balcony above, 90 people all at once, and every eye in that restaurant landed on the two of them standing there in the middle of the floor. Han Tae-jun did not touch his cheek. He did not look away, and Lee Lyra did not move either, chest rising, eyes wet and furious, holding the gaze of the most feared man in Seoul in front of every single person in that room. If you were in her position, would you have slapped him, or would you have taken the deal? Tell me in the comments, because I read every one of them. Subscribe, like, and share this video, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss the next episode. I need all the support I can get, and your support is what keeps these stories coming.